And with William, my brother wanted me to visit him on the day that William was going to be executed. And so I did, and so we were on separate, sides of the visitation tanks, but they allowed William to come over and hold my brother's hand, and my brother said a prayer with him, and joked, told him to take a to-go bag because heaven was quite a long ways off, and so they joked, and then William pretty much protested and made them pick him up and take him. And so then we got over to the hospitality house, and that's the most grueling part, is while you're waiting for the execution, when you're sitting there from 12 o'clock noon until they inject a cocktail of drugs at 6 o'clock. And that was really horrific, because we were hoping and praying and waiting for the Supreme Court to come back and say, yep, we made another mistake, and we're going to let the 125th person go. But it didn't happen. And it really was truly the most horrible experience, and the most disgusting, just horrific experience that I've really ever had in my whole life. That I was so sick, and I just felt, at that time, I really felt hateful towards the system. And I had never really felt hateful towards anybody or anything in my life. But I decided on that day that I was not going to be nice anymore, and I was not going to be professional, and I was not going to be sweet, that I was going to be a bitch, and I was going to come out fighting and swinging, and that we all had blood on our hands, and that we are all responsible for this death penalty, because we all just sit back, or maybe not you guys because we're here, but most people, there's still 60% of the people across the country that believe in the death penalty, and there's still 37 states that are executing people, despite the fact that 125 people have been released. And like Rob said, well, they still think that maybe they did it, but somehow they got off, And it is just, it's an atrocity, and it's an embarrassment, and it is sickening, and it is gut-wrenching experience. And it's got to stop. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm so grateful for all the lawyers and all of the people that are really at bat going to the Supreme Court and arguing these cases. But I think the other half of it is, all of the anti-death penalty groups, and that is that we are making a change, we need to make a giant strides, and we need to abolish the death penalty, and we need to shut down death row, because it is truly hell on earth. It really is. They are deprived of their life and their liberty and their sanity, and they're sprayed with harsh chemicals, and they send 10 or 15 people in to beat them up at a time, and just on and on and on. It just never stops. They feed them mush. They feed them pig food. It's just disgusting. It really is. And that I had heard from my pen pals. My brother has never uttered an unkind word about where he is. And it is just, and I don't encourage him to, because I don't want him to be beat up, and I don't want them to spray him with chemicals. So I just let him know that we're out here fighting, but I don't want him to get involved in those horrific ordeals where people are getting, so injured. Derek Frazier was executed, and I spoke to his wife recently, and he was a very strong activist against the death penalty. But she said that they injected the chemicals in his arm as he started speaking. They didn't want him to speak. They didn't want to hear his last words. As soon as he opened his mouth, they stuck him with chemicals and immediately murdered him. And it was really, that is really a travesty that they wouldn't allow him to say that he was innocent. And then they lost his body, and then they cremated it improperly so that it wouldn't fit in the urn, and it was split into 3 pieces, and those 3 pieces were lost in the mail, and they were finally sent to Canada, and so they will finally be able to bury their loved one. But he did not rest in peace. And I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to come back from the dead and haunt all of us. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is that coming up in October, we have Faith in Action Weekend, and some of you may be religiously affiliated, some of you may not, but I have an extra packet if anybody is interested in and it is Amnesty International's weekend, where they just encourage all the churches across the United States to dialogue about the death penalty. And then I just wanted to say just one more thing, and I can't remember exactly what it was now. Oh, I know what it was, about the artwork. most of these men on death row have produced some really beautiful artwork, and they have sent it out to us, and we have done several art shows, and Scott did one for TMN, and I think we've done one here. There's just been several art shows, and what's really amazing is that their artwork and their letters have gone around the world. There are so many people supporting them. They have their pen pals from all over the world, mostly Europe, but they are so wonderful to come here and to support our loved ones when their families turn their backs on them. And they come here from every country that you can imagine, Spain and Italy and France and Germany and Sweden, and they are so precious to us, and we are so appreciative and grateful that they bother to come here. And they have been harassed, and their visitations have been, interrupted, but everybody has continued to support them, and they have prevailed, and they will keep their visitations intact, and so we are forever grateful to the Europeans as well, because they are truly a gift, truly a gift to us. And then one last thing I wanted to mention is our march that we're having on Saturday, October the 28th. And I hope that all of you all will come out and join us in our fight against the death penalty. And thank you again for being here. Thanks.